To keep yourself updated, subscribe to Indigolearn and click the bell icon and download our app OneFin to start learning on the go.
Hello everyone. So here we are today with a review of the audit paper of the November 2022 examination. And this video will definitely help you understand how well have you written in your examination. Now, after going through the paper, I can definitely tell that this paper, we definitely cannot categorize this to be a very difficult paper or something which is out of the box. This paper, with the subject audit, which is considered to be one of the complicated papers for the CA final, trust me, at this level or at this particular November 2022 examination has come out to be really simple when compared to the others. This is an average kind of paper, a moderate paper for a student who actually with a good preparation will definitely be able to come out of the examination hall with a smiling face. So if you have prepared really well, a reasonable preparation with all the important areas of audit, then in that case, this paper will definitely not be something which is going to be difficult for you. Because this paper, the way it is formatted, the structure is some which has been repeated question. There have been some which have been picked up from the questions which are already available with us. And there are some very few new questions framed, but those new questions are not bouncers in a simple language that we call. Instead, I would say that they are those questions which if you have conceptual clarity, you would be able to write them well. So basically, I don't know the fear in the examination hall, how you tackled it, but when I read the paper, I definitely found it to be a moderate paper, a simple paper to go through. Alright, obviously we cannot say something is easy because it is CA final. But I can also say that it is not very difficult because what has come here is quite manageable and with your thorough knowledge of standards on auditing. If you are prepared well with CARO, if you have done really well preparation with the special audits like tax audit, bank audit, etc., then definitely there is no way in which this paper could sound or look difficult for you. Also professional ethics preparation. If you have decently prepared it, then all the questions appearing in the exam, you would be able to solve it. So the difficulty level, we consider it to be really moderate, an average paper, which a student who has prepared well will definitely find it to be smooth and simple to attempt in the examination. So with this, let us first get on the understanding of how the questions appeared. So if you can say MCQ or descriptive, I would say both were average because in MCQs also, most of the questions were simple except for some 5 questions which appear to be a little complicated. When it comes to descriptive, which are when we're going to do detailed discussion now, you would see that the level of difficulty is not very heavy. Why I call this to be not very heavy is because these are the questions which are there somewhere you have gone through. It would be either in the institute study material, it could be in the question banks if you have practiced, it could be in the past examination questions, the RTPs, right? So they are not something completely new which you are going to get exposed to, where you completely have to think in the examination hall about it. Except for a few questions on CARO, you could say, or some 1 or 2 questions on standard, or there could be a question on peer review, which has been newly framed. But if you have a sound knowledge, conceptual clarity, I think the difficulty level there also would not be there. Alright? Here, in this structure of this questions paper, when compared to the other past papers, the different thing that has happened is that CARO has been focused. And I think we all expected because CARO was something new, the CARO 2020 was something new which was added on to the syllabus. And when something new is there, definitely we expect the institute to question it on there. So almost 10 marks of the questions are from CARO. Then the topic of audit in an automated environment also takes you for a surprise because you have 2 questions appearing from there. So this time you don't find a question coming from the insurance, there's audit of insurance sector. So basically, I think it's been covered up by the automated environment, the second question. So the audit of automated environment, basically we expect a question to come from there, but there has been 2 different set of questions which are appearing there. So that is the thing. Ethics, there has been a considerable weightage given, and standards, like always, a good amount of questioning. So the standard preparation has to be really good. Only then you'll be able to decide if you really want to score in this paper. I think this preparation on standards have to be very strong. So I would say that if your standard preparation has been really well, then you would be about those people who really scored well in this paper. Alright. So let us see the structure of the marks. So if you look at the descriptive discussion, so if you take the first descriptive part, Questions appearing from standards are of almost 29 marks. So with the weightage itself, we can understand how important it is for your preparation for standards. Also, the students preparing for May 23, highly recommended for you to understand the structure, because this will give you an idea of how you actually design the way you prepare, and also understand how the level of questioning in the examination would look like. And those have already finished. You could actually check how well you have written, so that you'll be able to decide how fairly you have presented your paper. Alright. From ethics, there are 13 marks questions appearing, okay, which is quite regular. So that's not something big, but you can see Caro, 10 marks. Alright. So with this, Caro, I think everybody expected the questions to be appearing this time. So 10 marks, obviously from the company audit, basically descriptive are not many questions, because the target has been on the company's auditor's report order. So Caro has been the highlight of the company audit this time. Alright. As I told you, for automated environment, you have 2 questions. So the targeted questions appearing is of almost 9 marks. Bank audit is question for 5. Tax audit 4 marks. Consolidated financial statement, again as a part of the company audit, is come for 5 marks. Alright, so company audit, they focused on Caro and the CFS. Okay, from the other topics, you have investigation and due diligence covering of 4 marks. The forensic audits being 4 marks, and then peer review 5 marks, which I told you a new question has been framed. One area is this one. Alright. Then we don't have the proper question available with us for MCQ, which we can take up for discussion. With the information that I have, a company audit has been focused more on through the MCQs. So the questioning on the company audit has been focused through the MCQs. So almost 14 mark questions are appearing. Ethics, 6 marks, the weightage will be less. Standards, usually you don't get questions much coming in the MCQ. Obviously, it always comes as a part of descriptive. So 3 marks is quite acceptable. And others, there is 7 marks. Alright. So this is the way in which the questions have been distributed. And you could see that the weightage given to the standards is considerably high. Alright. Caro also, I would say, is one of the important areas. Professional ethics, now when we do the discussion, you would see that a student with a good level of preparation, I wouldn't say you put extensively more time in the revision part and all that for ethics, because the way it has been questioned, the routine preparation of yours or the regular preparation that you have done, I think that would be sufficient enough for you to actually score well here. So the questions were not very complicated, the quite understandable questions, okay, which we will have a total discussion as of now, okay. So let us get started with the descriptive. So I have the question paper with me. So let us take up by one, so you'll be able to understand the type of questions, okay. Basically, you have to focus on understanding what is the question that you have read and what was actually expected from the examination. Okay, so what the question actually asked you to. So the first question is talking about a particular chartered accountant firm, okay, where they are talking about a particular entity which they are auditing, and they say it has expanded in its operations, introduced new segment as well as new geography. So the scale of operations has been increased. So AP Associates does not possess necessary expertise and infrastructure to carry out the audit of this diversified business activity, and accordingly wishes to withdraw from the engagement and the client relationship. Discuss the issues that need to be addressed before deciding to withdraw. So you need to understand what is the question first. We cannot jump to the condition of how to withdraw and all of those things. Here they are telling you regarding discuss the issue that need to be addressed. So basically here the reference is SQC 1, the Standard on Quality Control 1. Okay, so you have to give the answer based on the reference to SQC 1, where you are lacking competence. Okay, so after the discussion with the entire team members, you would definitely look into your quality control policies and the procedures, and you will be then deciding to withdraw from the engagement. Okay, so this is what is expected in the answer here. So you give reference to SQC 1 and you mention that you lack competence to carry out the audit engagement which is given to you, the assignment, and then you will discuss this matter with the firm, and your audit firm, the practice unit, and based on that you will be taking into account the quality control policies and the procedures. Okay, based on that you will decide whether it has to be withdrawn. Alright, so resignation would be an ideal option here. Okay, then second question is a very simple question which I would say, because here they are questioning about the negative confirmation request. Looking at that only you clearly get an indication it is SA 505. Correct, it is talking about the external confirmation. Comment with respect to standard on auditing, so it is 505, relating to the confirmation process and how to deal with the non-receipt of the confirmation. So here you first could give the introduction to SA 505 and talk about the negative confirmation. You can also talk about which are the situations where negative confirmation can be recommended, like where the risk of material misstatement is low, where the probability of error the auditor is expecting to be low, okay, where the tolerable limit or the risk is going to be considerably down, okay. So in those cases, we could go in for the negative confirmation request, alright. And here you see that there is an old outstanding 20 lakhs for which no confirmation is received. So when no confirmation is received, how are you going to deal with it? Obviously, you will be having alternative audit procedures to be carried down to obtain the audit evidences. And if none of those are working, then you'll go for basically the positive confirmation. Okay, so here you have to give a reference to the additional procedures which you could follow. Okay, so you could check the bank statements, you could check the good received notes and all that, the invoices, everything. And based on that, you'll be able to decide whether you're able to obtain any evidences. And if that is not happening, you can definitely jump to a positive confirmation request to them. Alright, so that is all about the negative confirmation, which I think is a good question where you could actually think of getting the full marks. Alright, then moving to the next one, it talks about a government company engaged in providing tourism service. Alright, there is a material misstatement in providing depreciation on the fixed assets due to financial statements have been revised. Now the company is requesting you to revise the tax audit report. You are required to state whether tax audit report can be revised, and if so, under what circumstances. So when you do the topic of the tax audit, okay, basically you will be getting a situation where revision of the tax audit report can be done, okay, based on the subsequent events that we identify, some kind of reforms, change in the taxation laws or regulations and all that, which happen after the report given. So there are multiple scenarios given to you, discussed very clearly in that topic. So this is a quite straightforward one. It's not a brand new question. It's a repeated question, I would say. So this kind of question is available and this content is readily available. So there are situations or areas where you would require the revision of the tax audit report. It is permissible in the given scenarios. So the list of scenarios, if you write it correctly, I think the work is done. Alright. So first the answer is you can, and then which situations you have to mention here. Alright. Then the second question, the A part of it talks about, it is basically talking during the course of planning of the audit. They intend to apply the concept of materiality for the financial statement as a whole. So the materiality level for the financial statement as a whole it is talking about. Please guide them with the factors that may affect the identification of appropriate benchmarks. So very interesting question. When you do standards, when you go through the videos, you see that when you do SA 320 materiality, we actually focus on the calculation of the benchmark, where we use the methodology of using a benchmark strategy. So where one of the factors will be considered to be a benchmark, where we are going to apply a kind of percentage and come to our overall materiality for the financial statement as a whole. Correct? So the question is, how are you going to select this thing? That is the benchmark. Correct? So that would be depending upon the elements of the financial statements. It could be depending upon the type of, the nature of the industry you belong to. It could be about the type of the ownership, the debt, etc. Or the product life cycle, or I mean the entity's life cycle in which we are. Alright? Depending upon multiple elements and factors, the benchmark can be decided. But based on the benchmark, they have not stopped the question here directly. They also asked you to apply some practical knowledge here. So about benchmark should be adopted in the following cases. So they say the manufacture and sale of air conditioner and is having regular profits. If you have regular profit, PBT would be the ideal benchmark, profit before tax. And they say the construction of large infrastructure project and incurred losses in the previous 2 financial years due to pandemic. So here in this case, it is a large infrastructure project and incurred losses in the previous 2 financial year. If they are telling large infrastructure project, then we could take definitely the basis of benchmark to be assets. Total assets could be considered to be a part of benchmark. Alright, so depending upon, here they have simply asked you to apply a practical knowledge of how do you understand, looking at the industry, what kind of benchmark should be applied. So PBT would be the first one case, and the second I would think the total assets would be quite acceptable to choose it like a benchmark. So the percentage that you apply on the benchmark is going to be by professional judgment, which you are going to apply on these 2 amounts, and then that will be the overall materiality level for the financial statement as a whole. Alright, then. The next question is talking about, please mention any 5 aspects which are given in the notes to separate financial statements of parent and subsidiary need not be included in the consolidated financial statements. Alright, so the question is regarding CFS, consolidated financial statement, where they are talking about the disclosures in the notes to accounts. And when you prepare the CFS, that is when you are consolidating the parent and the subsidiaries, which are the information which need not be included. Okay, so here we have those which are not going to impact on the decision making, which do not have a significant influence on the users and all of those. So here you could take information like you have multiple things are being given there, but you can take the examples of exports, import figures, etc. So there are multiple things which you could actually check to the topic, and you can understand that there are multiple items discussed in this particular area where disclosure need not be given. Alright. So this question, if you see, it is a newly framed question. So this question you would not see earlier. So it is newly framed. Alright, then moving to the next one, you have been requested to carry out forensic audit. So it is a question on forensic audit. What were the items of discussion with respect to difference between forensic audit and other audit? So this is quite a straightforward question, and also this question is quite appearing in the past. It's a repeated question. So I think a straight question, nothing to be discussed here. You simply have to give the difference between a forensic audit and the other audits. Alright. Then ABC Limited is engaged in the business of trading and manufacturing. Alright. So this question is based on the areas in which direct assistance from the internal auditor cannot be taken. Also comment in this scenario whether statutory auditor can take internal auditor's assistance. So this question is based on essay 610, using the work of internal auditor, where we know that there are two ways in which we can use. Either we can use the work or we can take direct assistance. But when you take direct assistance, you have to look into the objectivity, the competence, the independence, correct? Then whether the particular area can be assigned, correct? So all those things you'll take into account, whether it's justified to give that particular area to be done by the internal auditor or not. So there are going to be certain discussions that you first take into account. Then here in this case, you see that auditor has assigned the checking of accuracy of aging of the account receivables and the provision made towards doubtful receivables to the internal auditor. Alright. And the company is having large balance of the accounts, which is having high risk. So usually where high risk things are there, we don't prefer giving it to whom? The internal auditors. So here you first give the entire procedure, what all things you keep in mind for the purpose of deciding whether we can give direct whether we can take direct assistance of the internal auditor for the purpose of our audit. First that you give, take into account all the requirements of these objectivity, whether he has the competence, whether it is justified to use his work or not, correct? All of that thing will take into account. And then here we'll understand that it's a high risky area. So when things are having high risk in them, then preferably the auditor will not be using the work of the internal auditor, or he would not delegate or take the direct assistance of the internal auditor with respect to such areas which are considered to be really risky. Okay, so that is the implication or the application of the standard here. Then comes to next one, which is talking about a software solution. So it is about automated environment. So 5 focal points for consideration of CA. M when auditing in the automated environment with respect to his audit approach during planning, execution and completion phases. Okay, again a straightforward question. So when you talk about audit of automated environment, when you go to the topic, you get in the beginning only the planning, execution and the completion process, and you have to give the reference to the 5 focal points which are mentioned there. Correct? So again a straight question, nothing to be discussed. Here he did not maintain the books of accounts for his professional work on the ground that his income is assessed under section 44 ADA of income tax. Comment with reference to chartered accountant. So obviously he has done wrong. He requires to maintain the books, alright, the cash book, etc. So he is definitely guilty of professional misconduct. So the reference that you will be giving here is regarding the schedule 2, part 2, clause 1. Okay. So that reference has to be given here compulsorily. Alright. So that also is a repeated question, is not something new. It's come earlier also, and this question will be available. So it's not something new that you have to think over and do it there. Alright. Then next is regarding the bank. So it is focusing on the bank audit. Okay, and it is regarding the issuance of credit card. So there should be strict controls. So it is talking about controls over credit card. Okay, so obviously here you could give how will you evaluate the internal control system in the area of credit card operations. So simple, you have to check the control over the issuance of the credit card, whether proper credit worthiness of the customer has been checked or not. Physical check or the physical controls on the credit card issue. Then if you see that there is irregular payment by any credit card holder, then the revision of his credit limit. All of these things have to be in place properly or not. So basically those are the internal controls that we take into account of credit card operations. I think a very simple question in this place. So from the banks, credit card, I think controls are quite simple. Then we have the next one, which talks about 5 principles which we need to be complied with chartered accountant. This too, I think every student will easily answer. With respect to code of ethics, so we have objectivity, integrity, confidentiality, correct? So all of those, I think you all must have answered well. So it tells briefly explain. So you just can't mention the words. You have to also explain the 5 principles which need to be complied by the chartered accountants. Alright, then I told you code of ethics, the way they have questions, they are quite simple. Okay. Then while evaluating the risk and the control of the entity level, the auditor should take cognizance of the prevalent direct and indirect entity controls operating the entity. Explain which are such controls with few examples. So talking about direct controls and indirect. So direct controls, examples would be directly you could have authorization controls could be there, or there could be an access control given, okay, or any kind of direct controls which are going to safeguard your data, that we call it to be a direct control. Indirect is like to maintain a good corporate governance, a good ethical atmosphere in the organization. That kind of level of ethical atmosphere or the corporate governance would definitely indirectly make things work well in the entity. Okay, so that could be a kind of direct or indirect controls that we have. Okay, so that is regarding, again they have given about automated environment only. Okay, then fifth one, A, they talk about discuss how a CA UMA should deal with the situations in the auditor's report and the different options which to be considered. It is regarding in the course obtained certain audit evidences of incorrect disclosure of related party transaction and structured financial deals which are not considered with the affirmation leading to misstatement in the financial statements. So they have identified incorrect disclosures of RP transactions, okay, so 550, and structured financial deals which are not considered with the affirmation leading to the misstatement. So here they are talking about the misstatement. So how do you take care of with respect to SA 705? If the misstatements are material and pervasive, what will be the effect? Material but not pervasive, how are you going to do the reporting? So basically the question is regarding SA 705. Okay. How will you deal with the situation in the auditor's report and different options that can be considered? So that will be very depending upon the pervasiveness of the misstatement identified. Alright, then moving to the next one. You are the auditors of XMP Private Limited for the financial year 21-22. After the resignation of RS and Company Chartered Accountants as statutory auditor of the company, you are talking about accounting matters leading to changing auditors are made with the company. You want to report the above matter in CARO, but the management requested you not to report them. Comment with respect to auditor's response. Okay, so the question is regarding CARO. Alright, so let's read this. During the course of audit, it came to your notice that a survey has been conducted on December 7, 21 by the Income Tax Department, and there has been unearthed unrecorded sales, income escaping tax. Okay. So this reporting we do as per the clause 8 in the CARO. So obviously, even if the management denies, you are going to report and give the clear picture through the CARO. Alright. So the reporting will be done here. So you simply have to give a reference to the clause 8 of CARO, but very importantly, you also have to tell that comment with respect to the auditor's response to the management. That means only reporting will not be enough. You simply just cannot say you have to report in CARO. You also tell how are you going to communicate, that is you are going to talk to the management, discuss with the TCWG and how things are going to be rectified. So all of those things also you have to discuss here. Alright. Then moving to the next one, we have, it is regarding discuss the factors that you would consider in assessing future maintainable sales of TP Limited. Okay, so it is about investigation and due diligence topic, a quite straightforward question. I think if you read the question, there is no much discussion, it's a repeated question, I would say. It's a repeated one. So you would find it somewhere and the question is quite understandable. So if you have gone through the topic also, you'll be able to answer this question quite simply. Okay. It's about the future maintainable sales of TP Limited and they talk about the client's future maintainable sales. So that is going to be from the topic coming from out of due diligence. Alright. So you'll be able to do it. What is core investment company? First a question coming from CIC. What do you mean by it? What is specific reporting requirement? Very important. So here again the main question is focusing on CARO. Strategically I think this would carry 1 mark and this would carry 4 marks. So the main focus area of this particular question is on CARO. So the reporting on CIC should be accurate here. Okay. So CARO reporting is important. Then comes to upon completion of peer review, X and company observed certain non-compliance with auditing standards. X and company did not share any observation with AB and company and submitted its final audit report to peer review board. No, wrong. Okay, so here the question is about peer review. So obviously we know the concept of peer review. What happens in peer review is when you come across something which is non-compliance or something which is wrong, then obviously first you have to discuss with the practice unit, okay. Then you have to take into account all the discussions that have happened and everything, and then you prepare a preliminary audit report, and then only after all these taken into consideration, you are going to go and prepare it. You are going to go and submit it to whom? To the institute. All right. So directly going and submitting to the institute without having any kind of discussion with the practice unit, any kind of preliminary report prepared by you, direct step you cannot take. So this what is done by them is absolutely wrong. All right. So that is regarding peer review. Then moving on to the next one. CA Raj is the auditor of Multiplex Cinema House. He has observed during the course of the audit that the existing venue has undergone renovation. So there are two questions here, okay? Either one of them you have to answer. So here it is regarding discuss a few circumstances where audit program would undergo a change. So here the reference you give to SA 300. Okay, and you have to decide those places where there could be an alteration in the audit program. So there are going to be multiple things that come across during the course of audit, where there could be changes in the assessed risk of material misstatement, some exposure of the new elements, okay, where the auditor will undergo what? The change in the audit strategy. Okay, the audit program could undergo a change. Then the last one is regarding professional ethics. So Mr. X is a practicing chartered accountant, Y is practicing advocate representing matters in the court of law. X and Y decide to help each other in the professional expertise. Okay, so what is the question? Mr. X recommends to Mr. Y in all litigation matters in court of law, and Y consults X in all the matters relating to finance. So they are sharing the services, which comes to him in the arguing various cases. Consequently, they started sharing profits. Okay. Is Mr. liable from professional misconduct? Absolutely not. Sharing is allowed. Sharing is acceptable, but you have to be more precise, telling that it's been two-way sharing which is happening. So when both of the works have been shared with each other, then I think it is not a professional misconduct by Mr. X. So he is not guilty of professional misconduct because this particular scenario is acceptable as per the code of ethics. All right. So if you look at the overall framework, the questions are not very complicated, with very few coming up to be brand new questions. Like if you look at the fifth question, A and B both are new questions because the B question is on Caro, alright, and the first one is newly made, it's regarding the 705 reporting. Sixth also, it's new again because Caro CIC comes into picture, and there is peer review, that also is a new one. Alright, remaining all the questions, if you have a quite understandability with every topic in detail, then you will be able to do this very well. So especially when it comes to a faculty seeing that the students have come out with smiling faces, it's like a level of satisfaction that they have. So with this paper, I think with a considerable preparation, I am very sure that the students who have done well, who have really prepared well, gone through every topic, have not done some optional kind of preparation, okay, did not keep some of the topics as options, then I think you would definitely score well and actually fare well in this paper, because there is nothing which I really call it to be complicated or difficult, or when the students' language we have the word bouncer. So this word you will not find it when you are solving this paper. So audit being one of the fear for a student, if a paper like this comes out, I think we call it to be a successful attempt. So with this, I think we are done with the review, and you will now be in a position to decide the way you have written the paper, whether it is well or it is extremely well that you have satisfied for yourself.